What's up guys, Máté here. I'm going to show you in this video how you can create some really nice low-end stuff for your more minimalistic, groovy, housey productions, and how you can really glue together the kick with the bass line, or how you can create them in the first line. So I actually took the track Az Ember, and now I'm going to make a little bit of an advertising, but just 20 seconds or so. It was released on my label Group Government, and you can listen to it on Spotify. So it's GG001, and yeah, I would be really happy if you would listen to that, and that's all. So I'm going to show you the whole loop for a second. So yeah, I'm going to show you how I actually created the bass section and the low end section in general. So to tell you the short story to the track, it's called Az Ember, which means the human, and the idea came from a friend who gave me the tip or the advice to make a track by having one word which I used to get inspired from, and as I was thinking about the word the human, I was associating breathing all the time with a human. So I actually looked up on YouTube something with breathing. I had no idea, and yeah, it seems like I took the video Inner Sound of the Body, and I took different stuff. In the intro I had the breathing of some person who was sick, I guess, I'm not sure. And then I just looped it, and I also took the heartbeat of the person, and I really liked it because if you combine it with the kick, then it sounds really rhythmical. So let's just listen to the heartbeat first. And the kick is basically a layered kick, where I took this kick. So without the filter or the EQ, I just kind of took the mid-low stuff because I wanted to have this tonal quality of the sound, but not the low end, because you don't want to add up all the low end, because then it's going to add up, and maybe you won't hear it on your system. But when you go to the club and you want to play it for the first time and they have a proper sound system, then you're going to have a bad day, maybe, not sure, but maybe it's going to sound really, really bad because all the low end can come through because the sound system is good enough, and you want to really avoid that. So yeah, I combined it with a kick with a proper low end, so sounds like this, without the mid stuff. So it pretty much fills up the low mid range, and then I just applied an EQ8 to cut off the frequencies at like 240, because that's the range where, I mean, plus minus 10 hertz or maybe even 20, where you have the boxiness of the kick in most of the cases. And as I always say, it really depends on your taste and how you are writing music, if you actually want to boost even this boxy frequency. But in most of the cases, if you just turn it up, let's just have a listen to it. It's not really pleasant to the ears. So I mean, I took a little bit too much too, but you can have a listen to, and you will notice then that in 80 or 90% of the cases it's not really nice to have those frequencies in your kick. And yeah, then in combination with the breathe kick, which I actually used with a heavy high cut and also a sidechain compressor, so that the kick, whenever it sends a signal because it's played, it just pushes down the volume of my breathing kick, or I mean the heartbeat actually. So it's really subtle, but you can hear that it kind of adds an additional rhythm, and I really loved it. It's so nice because it kind of gives a tribal effect, and I love it. I love it when it's a little bit more groovy and tribal. So yeah, I use this one. And now we come to the funny part where I actually took some basic pad sounds. You can listen to it now. So sounds okay, but I wanted to create a bass line, and here comes the solution. So if you apply FabFilter Volcano, I think you can take other EQs too, or filters, because what I'm basically doing is I have a low cut here, but what I did is the resonant frequency is at 173 Hertz, and I pulled it up so that it's so high that it begins to self-oscillate. So you can look it up and get a proper explanation, probably from some electrician guys, how it actually works, but it just begins to oscillate. So you don't have to give any signal at some point to the filter, but it's still going to oscillate. And by oscillating, I mean that it generates a wave, and it's going to be at this frequency, so at 173. And it really depends on the filter how the oscillation is going to sound like, because it's not going to be a pure sine wave when you begin to push it up at a certain frequency, but it's going to have additional harmonic content depending on the hardware. So it's just all physics, and you can get a really nice explanation if you are interested in these topics, but I can't give you a really good one. But that would be the basic. And in the software case, when you use a VST, if you have a proper software like FabFilter, then you can pick the filter types. So if I would take another kind of filter, which you can pick here, like FabFilter 1, smooth, raw, hard, and so on, you wouldn't have the self-oscillation, or the self-oscillation would have different harmonic content in the higher regions. And yeah, I would highly recommend you to play around a little bit with it, because it makes you creative in a different way, and it can result in undefined behavior, as someone would say it if you would code. So yeah, let's just have a listen to it. So once again without, and now with the Volcano. I can also move it around. You can also hear a tiny bit of a shift in the frequency, and it's basically because of those two LFOs, which I didn't put on, to be honest. I wasn't a smart guy, but I was the one who clicked through all the presets, and then I just turned some knobs because I liked the preset and wanted to have only minor changes. And yeah, I mean, they are there to, I mean, an LFO is a low frequent oscillator or low frequency oscillator, which basically means that it oscillates, so it generates a wave, but it's so low that you can't hear it. You can't really hear anything below 40 Hertz, I guess. And let's say you take 10 Hertz that would mean that you have 10 cycles in 1 second. So you could imagine some kid rope skipping so fast that it makes 10 cycles in 1 second. So he would be actually an oscillator with that frequency. And what you do with this 10 hertz is you just connect it with one of the values you want to change. So let's say you want to change the value pitch, and then you connect it to this low frequency oscillator, and it's going to change it 10 times in 1 second. And I mean, the amplitude, how much you change it, it depends on you. You can most of the time pick the parameter value amount to determine that. And that's all. So I have the frequency not in hertz here or time, but I have it in the rhythmical value or the tempo, which corresponds to the BPM I have here. And yeah, it makes a really nice, interesting rhythmical pattern, which sounds great with the kick and this heartbeat kick. So I would generally recommend you, if you do something with those self-oscillating things, to take some percussive route, I would call it, so that you can always have the kick going and you know where the oscillation is happening. Not because of the tonal stuff, but more because of the rhythmical stuff, because it may sound nice in solo, I mean your self-oscillating filter, but it sounds a little bit weird in the context. So you can move it around, of course, but it's I think it's better to solve the problem right at the core. So yeah, let's listen to the whole thing. Oh, and maybe let's check what else I did to the bass first. So I took the utility effect from Ableton, which is, I mean, it's basically I'm just turned it to mono below 120 hertz, because you don't want to have it in stereo if you are below this frequency, maybe a little bit even higher, but I just went for 120. And I also applied a compressor to sidechain it to the kick, because of the same reason as I explained before, you don't want them to add up. So the Fab Filter Pro Q2 is just low and a high shelf, or what's the name of the combination, I don't know, but you can see it. And I did it because it had so much of the low frequency content and not enough from the high frequency, so that I just used this kind of filter to balance it a little bit more out. You could, of course, do it in Volcano too, but I'm not sure if it would still oscillate if I would make the resonant frequency or the peak lower. So I just picked this way with the filter or the EQ. Oh, I actually didn't have this one, so I'm just going to close it again. And then I had a limiter, which I just had to catch the peaks. You can have a listen to it. And then I took an EQ8 and cut everything below 30 hertz or 31.9. So I'm not that exact, because I don't care about it too much. I think some of the character comes if you are not that exact. So yeah, I didn't care about it. And then I used the scope. I use it all the time. If you know my videos, then you probably saw it already. And I used it to monitor how the wave looks like, so I really like to see it. Yeah, and then I actually flattened and freezed it, or freezed and flattened. I'm not sure if it's called the same way in other DAWs or DRWs, but I did it so that my CPU won't die, because it does it all the time. And yeah, I applied some compression, not too much, I guess. but as you can see, I pulled up the attack to 30 milliseconds, which is pretty high, so that the peaks of the bass line still comes through, because I just like the peaky sound of it. And yeah, the release is set to auto, and I mean the SSL compression from Waves is just, or the emulation from Waves is just nice to glue everything a little bit together and give it a little bit of warmth. So yeah, let's listen to the whole section together. Yeah, so that would be it. If you are interested in the whole thing, I can just make a sneak peek teaser. Then let me know and I can make a video on the separate parts too. I'm actually going to keep it at this length because I noticed that most of the trending videos in the audio production domain tend to have this length. So I won't make it longer because I'm also the guy who likes to watch like 20 or 30-minute videos, and I didn't look up. Oh, it's like 19 minutes now. So yeah, let me know how you liked it, and you can listen to the whole track because it's already released on Spotify, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, you can buy it on Bandcamp, it's even on Apple Music, so everywhere you can find it. And yeah, let me know what you would like to know, and if you have any ideas for new videos, I would be really happy to do some stuff for you. And until then, stay tuned and have a really nice week. Bye.